Today we're going to work with photography and establishing a focal point. A focal point is a specific area in any work of art that draws your eye to something that the artist wants you to think about. We want to maintain your intention. In this example by Zanelle Maholi, she is doing that essentially by creating a circle around where she wants us to look. She's drawing us into that area. In your photography assignment, you'll need to create a focal point. Now, your focal point doesn't necessarily have to be your face. It can be a lot of different things. Some of the different ways that we can establish a focal point is through directional line, contrast, isolation, and then you can also have multiple focal points. In this example, you can see all of the chopsticks that are in her hair are pointing towards her eyes, and so that's reinforcing where the focal point is in the piece and where we should look. Directional line is one method for establishing focal point. We can encourage the viewer to focus on a specific area. In this example, you can see the wavy lines of the target bag are leading up to the hand. And then we can see that the hand is doing an action, and that's creating its own focal point as well. It's very clear in this piece what is the focal point and then what is subservient to that focal point. Here you can see once again, directional line, the hands are pointing towards the phone. And not only do we have a uh, actual directional line, we also have a psychological directional line that's happening. So the eyes are looking down, and psychologically, we follow the direction of the eyes to see where it's looking. And so the phone is reinforced not only by the hands, but also by the eyes. We can also look at an example here where the light itself is leading us to the focal point. So directional line is following the highlights along the figure into the face, and then also the hand in front of the face is also reinforcing that use of directional line. Once again, here we follow the hand, which points to the very cute pit bull puppy that's in her arms, leading up to the face. And so all of this is being reinforced as we're looking at it. Here you can see we have two directional lines that are meeting in the middle. And then we have a very clear directional line that's leading to actually two focal points, one of which is the brush and the other is the face and the directional line that's connecting the two. Keep in mind the focal point does not always need to be in the center of a photograph or in a composition. It can be asymmetrical or off to one side. Another way of establishing a focal point is through contrast. Emphasis can be achieved through various types of contrast. In this example, we can see that the stickers are different than the skin, and so then the focal point then becomes on the stickers because they're brighter, they're a different material, and they're separating themselves from the background. You can also use scale as a way to utilize focal point. Here you can see that we're contrasting scale with very, very tall legs with very, very tiny legs. We can also establish contrast as a way to create focal point through color and then also value contrast. In this example, you can see that the eye is being emphasized because it is a warmer tone versus the cool tones that are behind it. Here you can see emphasis and focal point are created by value contrast. The lighter areas of the comb are drawing our attention versus everything that's darker in value is falling back into the background. We can also use focal point. We can establish it through isolation by taking one element of an image and separating it from another. So here you can see the figure is isolated from the window. And then we can also use multiple focal points. So in this example, you can see that we've got multiple figures and each one of them is a strong focal point. And this ends up making us consider the whole rather than one part of the image. So understanding that if you have multiple focal points, that kind of distills and breaks up where our focal area is. So here you can see in Tyler Mitchell's image, we've got multiple figures that are interacting within a space, and we give each one the same amount of time as we do other ones. So for your photographs, you need to consider the following elements: your point of view and perspective. Um, Think of something unconventional, think of something that's exciting, think of something that's new. Think about the gesture, the posture, the expression. Tyler Mitchell is an African American photographer who was actually the first African American photographer to photograph the cover for Vogue, and this was in 2018. Tyler Mitchell's work very much, I think, embodies how to look at things from unconventional angles. So here you can see the element of looking up while the figure is looking down. Here you can see we're looking down at the figures, which is creating this really nice sense of shape and movement. There's a rhythm that's happening here. This one you can see by changing our point of view, it makes a really dynamic, interesting, engaging image. And then here playing with the idea of silhouettes. And also quality of light, I think, is especially strong within his work. Consider what the subject is doing in the frame and how they are doing it. Consider all elements you'll include in the frame. If it's not important, don't include it. And then also making strong editing decisions. So here you can see once again, this is Tyler Mitchell, and he's really playing off of these fake flowers being attached to this young woman's face and body. And we get a really good sense of what his intention is. Other photographers that have addressed this are certainly looking at things like, um, how do we use color? How do we use simple objects to create something that's dynamic, something that's moving? You can also take your portraits within a space, within an environment. Don't feel like your figure needs to be really big in the frame. It can be much smaller or kind of hidden in an environment. And then also the use of props to tell what you want to the viewer. So, what is that truth or that lie that you're telling the viewer? Be highly creative. Think about sculptural elements. Think about ways that you can play with all of the things around you. Imagine if this one is, I love candy. This is a great way to show it. Your portraits can also be more psychological or more emotional in terms of how they're being portrayed. Here you can see the movement in the hair, the quality of light, how we're looking up at the figure. This is the same idea where we're very close to the figure, the gesture, where the figure is looking. All of these are things that you should consider. You're also welcome to build or create or add on in your photographs and your self-portraits. Here you can see that you're really kind of playing with building something out of a common household material. Or a lot of times students, maybe they're not comfortable showing their face. So in this example, you can see just using the hands or the figure would be acceptable, or hiding the face could be another example. These last photographs that we're going to look at are student examples. And so you're very much welcome to put your photographs into black and white. I'll show you how to do that in Photoshop. You can certainly use color a lot. These next three are the same subject with the same figure. I'll let you guys figure out which one is the truth and which one is the lie. Cropping, composition, lighting, intention. Some students like to really build things or play with lots of props or materials. I know you have a limited amount of time, but that can be something that you think about that you want to work with. I stress that you be really highly creative in terms of how you approach it or how you think about it. Think about the space, think about the color palette, think about the time of day, what you want to convey to the viewer. Um, and like I said, you're welcome to find spaces to photograph in. You're welcome to find different lighting situations. You're welcome to stage things with other people within the frame. Here you can see this is a really great example of a self-portrait, but not being super close up, not the stereotypical idea. As long as it includes some element of you, it could just even include your shadow. I would certainly include that as a self-portrait. This one I think is really great. It's just the clothes that are left for the self-portrait. Put your phone on the floor, put it up in a tree, put it in lots of different places. This is really meant for you to experiment and play with and have fun. So materials, sometimes students use a lot of objects to describe what their two truths and a liar. You can absolutely do that. But however you approach it, be as creative, be imaginative, and really think about how to make a really exciting self-portrait.